welcome to the Motion Picture Notion. I'm your host, Gabriel Burton, and today I want to discuss, for Trilogy Tuesday, the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy that started with the movie Shaun of the Dead, starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, continued with Hot Fuzz in 2007, and then in 2013, they finally did the concluding chapter. I thought they'd completely forgotten about it, The World's End. I like to think that most people know about Shaun of the Dead. If you haven't seen it, you probably should. It's a really hysterical movie. If you like British comedy, then that's all the more reason to go and check it out. The movie follows this character, Shaun, okay, who is 29 years old, and he's sort of like, his life isn't really going anywhere. He lives with his two flatmates, and he does have this girlfriend, but it's like she's sort of getting to the point where she's afraid that, their life together isn't going anywhere. Now, Shaun has these two flatmates, Ed, who is pretty much more irresponsible than Shaun is, who just absolutely loves to condone his, lazy behavior, sitting around playing video games with him all day. And then there's the guy, Pete, who's sort of like the alpha dog of the flat, and he's basically like, alright, you guys need to pay the bills and clean up and fucking do this and sort your life out and shit like that. And you see visually Shaun's routine day, going out to the store across the street, grabbing a newspaper, walking back with an ice cream cone, and almost everything that you see that's really quickly edited, it will allude to something directly later on in the movie, and that's part of the genius. Some inexplicable zombie outbreak happens. You never discover the origins of it, but, he's stuck with this band of people, his girlfriend who has recently just broken up with him, his mother, and his stepdad that he absolutely fucking hates. And, it's just it's comic gold. There are all sorts of things that make the movie really good, but the movie also has sort of a statement about life. Shaun isn't somebody to be looked at, to really be looked down upon. He's a likable guy, and there are people like that out there. They just sort of exist and are happy doing what they do. I mean, I don't know anybody around here that's like that. Do you? So anyways, Shaun of the Dead is it's a really terrific movie, and the thing that I like about it is not only is it such a good comedy, but it's a good zombie movie. A lot of the actors' portrayals, particularly towards the end of the film, the fear and the sadness and stuff like that, it's all very real, and then the movie does kind of take a more positive turn towards the end. Great movie. Absolute classic, I believe it didn't do so hot in theaters, but it actually has a pretty decent cult following now. Then there was Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz was probably my least favorite of the trilogy. Now, before anybody draws any conclusions about that, I loved this entire trilogy. Being the lesser chapter in a trilogy of just sheer awesomeness is not a bad thing. The thing with Hot Fuzz is, it is really, really different from Shaun of the Dead, which I respect. I actually like the fact that they didn't try to just do the exact same thing over again, And actually, Simon Pegg is, again, him and Nick Frost, they sort of have that dynamic where, he's the straighter of the two, and Nick Frost is the crazy goofy guy. Simon Pegg plays Nick Angel, alright, who's just this epically badass police officer. He got stabbed in the leg by a dude with a Santa Claus outfit, but basically he gets shipped to this rural town because all the other officers in the city think that he's making them look bad, which basically he is. And he's just first getting introduced to this small town mentality and how things out there are totally different, and how the law is really kind of stretched out there, which honestly, if a New Haven cop, say, were to go down to Texas, he'd be like a fucking fish out of water, because they do things completely differently down there. The thing with this movie is, I think it's the type of movie that you have to watch twice. At least I did. Because the first time I was watching it, I'm trying to get into it, and it's I can't fully wrap my head around it, and I'm I don't quite understand, and I don't like this as much as Shaun of the Dead. And then, as things unfold, it's I see what they were doing. The ending to the movie, the last, I want to say, 20 minutes or so is just, epic and awesome, and you totally get it, but the rest of the movie is pretty much building up to that. The first time you watch the movie, you may kind of find yourself being like, where's this going, you know? But after a second viewing, I'm like, not only did I think that it was hysterical, but I also did really appreciate the fact that they, you know, really went out of their way to do something different. Now, this brings me to the part of the trilogy that I want to talk about the most, and that is The World's End. This movie is fantastic, and it does exactly what the concluding chapter in a trilogy should do, and that is it kind of brings it back to the beginning. And don't get me wrong, it's not like a repeat of Shaun of the Dead, it just deals with like similar themes. The biggest differential between Shaun of the Dead and The World's End is that instead of being a dude who's like 29, about to turn 30, like what am I doing with my life, this is a guy who has he's actually like middle-aged. He's like 38 years old, and he's looking back at the glory days with, you know, him and his band of friends. You know, they used to go out and raise hell, and they went on this legendary pub crawl. This was back in like 1990 or something like that. They've all moved on with their lives. They've gone on to bigger and better things. And this guy, Gary King, essentially is the exact same person that he was 23 years ago. You know, he's still driving the same shitty economy car he always drove. He's still listening to the same mixed tape, like an audio tape in his car that he used to listen to 23 years ago. And he's trying to wrangle these people up, you know, to go on this pub crawl again because they never got to finish it. You know, he was never able to let go of the glory days, and it's almost like this pub crawl is going to change everything for him. You know, it's going to complete him in some way. That sense of childhood and belonging and owning the world that he once had, you know, is going to somehow magically come back to him. I mean, really, actually, in essence, it's kind of a sad character, but he's so, like, mental that it's funny to watch. And the thing that was also interesting about this movie is this is the first time in the trilogy that Nick Frost and Simon Pegg kind of switch roles. Nick Frost is really the straight-laced character in this, and Simon Pegg is just fucking all over the place, like, you know, from years of just, like, drug abuse and, like, God knows what else. So, needless to say, via some kind of sneaky manipulation, he does get them to go on the pub crawl with him. And when they go there, they find out that things in their old hometown are not the same as they have left them. And unfortunately, that's all I really want to disclose. It gets really good. It's really like on the level of Shaun of the Dead. It kind of hits you all at once. Like the first half of the movie is not the same as the second half. Check it out if you haven't. I actually liked The World's End as much as Shaun of the Dead, and that's saying something. I thought it was on the exact same level. I thought it brought the trilogy to a beautiful close, and I'm happy, honestly, that they took the 6 years to release it. I really, really, really am. And I think that it will hold the same relevance to the people who were fans of Shaun of the Dead who have grown older, because they are now in a different point of life. Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, thank you guys so much for bringing us this awesome trilogy. You guys are epic, and that's all she wrote.
Oh, man.